is the theme to Hook. You see, I have thought about today's show, and the reason I'm playing that is because we are about to talk about Wendy and Peter Pan, which is on at the Gaiety Theatre. It's fast approaching, in fact. Carl Parker from Parker Snell is with us. This is your latest production, Carl.
It is.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I mean, it's on next Thursday, so it's been intense because we only rehearsed for like 3 weeks and then we're in, so we're at the stage now where it's all coming together, and then we get into the theatre on Sunday, start rehearsing, and then we open on Thursday.
Yeah. Oh my word!
Yeah.
How exciting! Now, I say Wendy and Peter Pan. This is a slightly different production because it was commissioned by the RSC, by the Royal Shakespeare Company. This particular version. Tell us a bit about it.
So, like you said, Royal Shakespeare Company, Stratford-upon-Avon, commissioned it back in 2013. So it was their sort of winter season production that they did. And it's a very sort of modern, contemporary Peter Pan that people weren't expecting, people wouldn't have seen on the Isle of Man. And we did the classical sort of traditional Peter Pan back in 2016. This is, as I say, updated. The dialogue is far better, far wittier. It's brilliant. And I would say it verges more on Pirates of the Caribbean-esque than the sort of traditional Peter Pan that people have in their minds. So
Is there any flying?
I'm going to say...
Well, no, you know what? Don't spoil it. Actually, you're not supposed to ask things like that, because it gives it all away.
Yeah, a lot of it is down to the imagination. Now, see, in the RSC version, which obviously we're not trying to replicate, is that they had what they call shadows. So there's like 6 people would come on stage and they would lift Peter in the air and do all this and go around the stage. So what this adaptation lends itself to is a very creative way of flying, doing the fights and all sorts, which... maybe I could give one element away. For example, one of the big fights between Peter Pan and Captain Hook is more of a tug of war rather than sparring with swords. Even though we do have sword fights, there are other elements that, as I say, audiences hopefully will be very much entertained by.
I love this because I was checking out the blurb earlier, and it sounds so dramatic because it says, set against the backdrop of winter in 1908 in London, the story unfolds as snow blankets the city. It just sounds ace already just from that. Of course, there is, as you mentioned, some swashbuckling fights. It says it'll be thrilling, a wonderful spectacle. And I'm delighted to say you've brought Wendy with you, haven't you?
I have.
Wendy.
Hello.
I don't know whether to get you to speak as Wendy. No, I'm not going to speak, but tell us about your character. Tell us about this Wendy that you're playing, because as we've just been hearing from Carl, this is a slightly different adaptation, isn't it? So, I mean, what can we kind of expect from your Wendy, because she's a bit different?
Yeah, so the playwright Ella Hickson, she wanted to approach it and kind of retell the story from Wendy's perspective. So it's kind of, there are the traditional elements, but it's blended with the modern. So we see Wendy, she's still this loving, caring, mothering figure, but that's not all she is. She's going to Neverland on a mission. She's got a lot more feistiness to her. She's going to be a bit more of a warrior, a leader type. And that's really kind of one of the biggest differences you'll see in this production.
And does that mean a lot to you as a young woman kind of getting out there on the stage?
Yeah,
do you kind of connect with that?
I was speaking to this to someone a couple of days ago about how there's going to be a bit more like fighting with Wendy, and she said, "Oh my gosh, Wendy's fighting! What in the world?" But I said it's kind of coming at it from like a more feminist perspective, and she likened it to like Enola Holmes, where she's off in the world.
I've still not seen that. It's going to be really good.
You should watch it. I love
that.
it. It's got Millie Bobby Brown in it. Yeah. So she's on a mission this time around in Neverland. She's got purpose. She's got fight to her.
There does seem a lot of that. I mean, you mentioned Millie Bobby Brown, who's just in that film Damsel as well, which is that there seems to be a lot of that.
Like those vibes. Yeah. So it's bringing it to a modern audience. So I love that Peter Pan, whilst it's a traditional story, there are so many variations of it, and I think every generation has an adaptation. So I like the fact that every adaptation can grow as we evolve too, and this is what our one's going to do.
Oh, very well said. And do you have any kind of favourite moments in the production?
There are a lot of favourite moments. A favourite character would be Smee. He's a fan favourite in the rehearsal room. I don't want to spoil it, but the set is going to be very magical. It's going to be quite visually pleasing to see, so it's going to be a treat to watch.
Well, that's the thing, Carl, isn't it? Because I suppose when it comes to a production of this nature, magical is what it's all about, but creating that on a stage can be quite tricky. How have you found that?
Yeah, I mean, people who come to watch our productions generally will know our style, because we kind of have a philosophy in the sense that we generally go minimalist, but we put a lot of emphasis into a lighting design and just whatever the play is. So, for example, with Wendy and Peter Pan, it's very fluid and it's very fast-paced. So it doesn't lend itself to big, bulky sets and so on, because it has to be very fast-paced. But what I can say is that there's going to be a lot of fairy lights dotted around everywhere, and some special effects in terms of the lighting design. And, you know, there's going to be things that's going to fly in, fly out, and so on. So visually, hopefully, it will be stunning in places. So, yeah. Magical. Yeah, that's what we want.
Oh, do you feel like you've never grown up, Carl?
I hope I don't.